Hello everybody, it's me, that divination witch, and I hope you're doing well. I am back with another video in my series of spirits and deities that I have met. Because if you're new here, as I'm that divination witch, I do a lot of readings for people. I get to meet with a lot of spirits that I wouldn't ordinarily. And I've done this for a while now as well. I've worked with several spirits myself and spoke with them for my own reasons too. So yeah, I have quite a few people to talk about. I've also got quite a list because you guys have requested quite a few. And sometimes the deity or spirit themselves say, I want you to talk about me next. And that's what's happened in this case. I'm going to talk about a lesser known demon king called King Beleth. And before I do talk about King Beleth as well, just want to say that although they're labelled a demon, they're not always as such, not to me. It's very complicated, but try not to be afraid and have an open mind. I'm not saying that, demons are all good, etc. But just listen to what I've got to say, because I've never heard anyone else really talk about them. And they're actually pretty special to me. So, yeah, let's get into it. If you're new here, just to quickly say, hello, welcome. I hope you stick around. My name's Sarah. Of course, I'm that divination witch, and this is a safe space I set up to help people, to share my points of view, to answer questions as well. So if you've got a question, put it in the comments. No questions silly, because everyone has to start somewhere. So I'm not going to judge you. And I've got a link tree below if you are interested in supporting the channel. I'd be so grateful. I've got a shop, I've got a Patreon, my website. So if you want to check it out, that would be great. Thank you. Right, King Beleth. Most commonly, they're known as one of the demon kings in the Ars Goetia, and normally known as a man, hence the title king. And there's not a lot of information out there about them. What you will find about them is that they are a fierce and terrible king, and they're meant to be very, very scary and intimidating. And this is why I'm saying just keep an open mind. So they're meant to be very intimidating, very scary. All that's said in the Ars Goetia about them is that you have to summon them in a certain way, wear a certain ring, and have a hazel wand and all of this stuff. But it's kind of like that for a lot of the Goetia, because the Goetia spirits that are in the Ars Goetia, well, some of them were once gods in their own right, some of them are more ancient spirits. They're all, in a nutshell, I've explained on this channel before, but they're demons, they're spirits that were imprisoned by King Solomon and forced to build the Temple of Jerusalem. That's the legend around them. But there's spirits in there like Baal, for example, or Astaroth, that were once Canaanite gods in their own right. Like Yahweh was a Canaanite god himself, and that's Hebrew, Abrahamic god. So we've got to kind of take it all with a pinch of salt. And the artwork as well that goes along with the Ars Goetia, it's all like caricatures. It's meant to look scary and monstrous. They're all meant to look like that because they're meant to be evil and nasty beings, demons, So, yeah. Beleth is no exception. And yeah, they're meant to be a great and terrible king, very scary, as in purposefully scary. They are supposed to invoke fear into people that are not worthy. And they test the magician. I remember reading that, the one that summons him, he tests their spirit, I suppose, tries to scare people. And he comes on a great white ghostly horse, apparently. He's got a big horse. But then, in other statements about him, he's represented by cats. And he looks like a cat. And he is followed by a big ensemble of musicians and a big fanfare, I suppose, like ancient kings would have been. And some people as well say Beleth is not a man but a woman. And this happens a lot with the Goetia because at the time it was written in the medieval times, Middle Ages times, they were all, demonized, made out to be these monster figures, but all turned male as well. Spirits like Astaroth, good example. Astaroth, Astarte, they were once Astarte, a beautiful woman, goddess, love, fertility, etc. Now, no offence, meant to be an ugly looking man, and that's what's happened with Beleth. Beleth, when you research their name, it can be pronounced loads of different ways. It's similar for other demons mentioned in the Goetia, and they are said to be a more ancient spirit, and to be honest, they're said to be a woman. Now, I've seen them as both, and it's the same with Astaroth as well. And with Baal, well, not the man-woman thing with Baal, but the spirits that are in the Goetia, I feel the sentiment for everyone that I've met is that, okay, well, you want to call me a demon, I'll be a demon. And they do have, I suppose, like how gods have epithets, like Hecate has loads of epithets. They've got epithets. So Baal himself, for example, does sometimes appear as a great, handsome man, strong sky god, essentially. And then sometimes he appears more like a wizened old man. That's more his demonic-y side. And Beleth has their different sides as well. When I first met them, they looked like a big built man in a suit of armour, a medieval knight. And I'll tell you the story in a bit when I first met them. But that's how I first met them. And I didn't even see their face. They had the helmet down. It looked like something of Final Fantasy, which I'll try and put a picture on the screen if I remember. But that's what they looked like when I first met them. I didn't know who it was at first. But since then, since speaking with them, developing a bit of a relationship, a rapport with them, I've seen their face. I've seen them as a handsome looking man. I've also seen them as a cat, and I've seen them as a woman. So I've seen all sorts at this point. Now, when they are a cat, they're a tuxedo cat. Even though, I've just realised I've got a cat jumper on. They've got a cat on. I've got an altar for them, and I've just got a cat figure for them because you can't really get much stuff for them. They're that uncommon, I suppose. It's hard to research them as well. A lot of this is UPG. Literally, I bought a demonology book on them specifically, and some guy just wrote the same sentence over and over in a whole book and has published it, and it's like, what the hell is this? Maybe I'll review it sometimes because it really disappointed me. But there's barely any info on them. A lot of it is UPG as well. So, yes, they're represented by cats, and when they are a cat, they are a cheeky tuxedo cat, like a domestic cat is what I see them as. And when they're a lady, beautiful queenly figure, blonde hair, curvaceous, stunning. I don't know how else to say it. Like a supermodel, I suppose. But a lot of gods and goddesses they are divine beings at the end of the day. They're going to be very beautiful. That's who they are in a nutshell. And how did I come to meet them? I didn't even know who they were at one point. So, it was a few years into my practice. And I was coming to terms more with demonology. At this point, I was working with Lilith actively, very comfortable with her at this point. And by the time this video comes out, I should have made a video about Beleth. And if I post them in order, please remember to post them in order, Sarah. So you should know, if you don't already, go and find the video on my channel. Beleth was the first proper demon that I met. So, at this point in my practice, I was starting to learn more about them, and I was realising more information on the Abrahamic religions, that, oh, Yahweh was once a war god, and yet people think he's chill. But other people that were once, gods and goddesses, they're not chill. So I was being more open-minded, but I was still a novice, So in my personal life, it was right when I was leaving a job that I'd been in for a decade. I'd been in for almost 10 years of my life, nine and a bit years. And I had to go and hand in my equipment to this job, like computer and stuff. And this job, I tolerated it for so long. It's a long story, but after COVID hit and everyone was going through that, so this would have been about 3 years in to my practice. So, when COVID hit, it was 2020-ish, I believe I left. Anyways, it went downhill. There was a lot of bitchy people, stuff I just couldn't tolerate anymore, very, very pressured, etc. And there was somebody that was unpleasant. Not that I should have done something about it, but I didn't. They were just unpleasant that I had to hand in the equipment to. So I'm in this big corporate building and I'm nervous at the time because this person's very unpleasant and very sly, sarcastic, bitchy sort of attitude. And they were making me wait on purpose because I was leaving. And I was just sitting on this sofa in the reception, worried. And I just felt this presence next to me. And I could see him in my mind's eye, the big knight in shining armour, as cheesy as that sounds. And it was a big booming voice telling me, don't worry, breathe, you've got this, you'll be okay. And I was okay. He watched over my energy. The person who was a dick, basically, wasn't. They were as nice as pie to me. I handed the stuff in, it went swiftly, and that was that. When I got home after, I thought, who the heck was that? Who on earth was that? Started digging, researching, and took a little while, but turned out it was King Beleth. And I always had a soft spot for them after that, because King Beleth, I was doing research and thinking, wow, I'm so honoured that he has come to me when normally he has to be summoned and he tests people, etc. And, he's meant to be this scary guy, but he has came to me and helped me. Like, thank you, And I remember speaking with him and he said that, look, there's no pressure to work with me or anything like that, but I've noticed you, I'm caring about you, just had your back. And I remember it was like a few years, really, in and out of my practice. Like, sometimes I would feel his energy there, sometimes not. Sometimes we'd talk, sometimes not. But I would say in the past year, he's stuck around now, and he's an active part of my practice. And I'm not quite sure why, even now still. Not the whole reason why. There's some personal reasons that I'm not going to share here that I know why, but I feel like it's because I've been more open-minded, and sometimes deities, whether they're demons, angels, gods, goddesses, saints, spirits, whatever, sometimes it can take a shine into you and what you stand for and what you've been through. But I will say something funny. I've done my research on Beleth since then, and I remember at the time researching, I saw this little TikTok video because I was just lapping up as much information as I could because there's nothing out there about them. It's like a desert. And I remember this TikTok video, I left a comment on it. I forgot what the heck I said, but it was a positive one, saying, wow, they reached out to me and, I'm so grateful, so honoured, something like that, because I just leave comments sometimes to be like, wow, and some random a few weeks down the line said, the reply to the comment, and I remember it came up in my notifications. It makes me laugh so hard now. They called me a worm. They said, King Beleth would not reach out to a worm like you. And it just made me chuckle. Yeah, whatever. It did happen, and they're active in my practice. And Beleth themselves, if you do want to work with them, yeah, they do have the aspect of being harsh and scary, etc. So I wouldn't say they're beginner friendly for that reason. You've got to know your stuff, sort of thing. But if a deity is interested in you, they're interested in you. You can say no if you want, but he reached out to me. It wasn't the other way around. But they're actually really a love deity. And there's not much info about them, as I say, but as I've gotten to know Beleth, and now in recent times, very recent times, and he wanted me to do this video. I always say he mainly because that's how I first knew them. But I don't think they're a man, if I'm honest. Now I've seen him as a woman. I do feel that there was some sort of ancient love goddess, like Astarte was in Astaroth. Maybe that's what Beleth was. But I haven't been able to find concrete information on that. I know there's somewhere I've read that Beleth is kind of like a title, but that's the same for a lot of these demon names like Belial and Satan and Lucifer and all these things. So it's complex. It's so complex, but part of the reason I can share with you why they're with me is their love aspect. To help me in loving myself, because I find it hard to do that. Even now, years down my spiritual practice, even though I'm more confident and outspoken than I used to be, I'm still a harsh critic on myself. And Lilith's taught me boundaries. And Lilith, she is also complex, and a lot of people say, well, she teaches you like glamour magic and seduction and things like this. For me, it was none of that. It was boundaries and self-empowerment. And now I've got that nailed, I think, to an extent. I need more help. And I feel like Beleth's a part of that more help, My spirit team at the moment is pretty left-hand path. Well, it's not entirely made up of left-hand path deities and demons, but yeah, since Beleth and Valak and Lilith, and I've recently been working with Belial. I think I'm getting quite a pantheon going here, but I also work with Zeus too, and sometimes the Norse, Queen Hel, Queen Frigg. Right old pantheon going on here. That's the current path. So, yeah, if you want to speak with them, do so. Out with the Goetia. It's up to you if you want to summon them, like it's said in that grimoire. But that is Solomonic magic, and I don't do that because I don't like to enslave or, force any spirit to talk with me or do stuff for me. Like, that's horrible to me. It's very controlling and toxic. So I don't do that. You can if you want, though. It's, each to their own. But what I would say personally is, if you are interested, speak with them like you would any other god or goddess, and light them a candle at first, be polite, see what they've got to say. And offerings they like, they love a red candle, especially because that is to do with love and desire and stuff. But they've accepted other colours from me, like black is probably the most obvious, but brown candles they had me get as well. And I don't know if that's something to do with the earth. As far as I'm aware, they're not really linked with that, but there's something in it, as in it's nourishing. They love flowers, roses, most obvious for desire, but they're showing me like poppy as well, that opium Frankincense, dragon's blood. Nature is in the trees, and animals. They like cats. Obviously, they're represented as a cat as well, but they like cats because cats are quite independent and very noble animals as well. A lot of cats, if you look at them in history, spiritual history, I mean, you think of ancient Egypt and, goddesses like Bast, amazing, powerful queen like deities, and that's why Beleth likes them too. Not much else to say, really. So that's my experience with them. So if there is anyone out there interested in working with them, well, I hope this has helped, because there isn't a lot of information on them at all. I wish there was more, but there isn't. So that's why I make these videos sometimes. So I hope it helped. Any other spirit, any other deity you want me to talk about, ask me. I'll add it to my list. I've got a big list at the moment. And you can check out the playlist on my channel where I talk about different spirits that I've met. So, until next time, well, before I say, hit subscribe if you made it this far. But yes, until next time, stay safe and stay witchy. Bye.